She walked past them, and no one even turned. But what came next? They would never forget. The sun hadn't even peaked, and already the metal glared hot enough to burn. Heat hung over the forward base like a warning, dry, sharp, and silent. No one used the base's name anymore. It didn't matter. It was gravel and rust. Canvas stretched over bones of forgotten tents, towers that buzzed more with static than life. A place you passed through, not one you remembered. Dana moved across the tarmac like she belonged to the background. Flight gloves looped through her, belt, boots, soundless against compacted dust. No clipboard, no radio on, no chatter, and no one asked her name. She didn't expect them to. Somewhere behind her, teams clustered near sleek aircraft with names that meant something. Fighters, transports, tech that hummed with purpose. They flicked through checklists, ran diagnostics, calibrated drones. Young crewmen barked out rosters, eyes sharp with urgency. One of them looked up as she passed. Slot Delta, support only, he muttered. B Team Bird. His teammates didn't even glance her way. That was fine. Dana didn't pause, not once. She moved like silence was the mission. At the edge of the lot, where sun met shadow and the dirt turned pale from heat, her Wolfhound waited. The C-146A wasn't glamorous. It wasn't feared or envied. It didn't have a call sign that made it onto the mission board in red. It just had dust across its nose, paint worn thin near the and a soul that only a quiet pilot would notice. She stepped up, keyed the side hatch, and disappeared inside. No one saw her hand brush the panel as she passed, like checking for a pulse. Inside the Wolfhound, the air held the scent of oil, warm, metal, and something older memory maybe. Dana balanced her clipboard on the bulkhead, thumbed through her pre-dawn notes. Her fingers moved with certainty, not repetition. Every switch, every calibration, every flick of her wrist said one thing. She was already ahead. The drift on the compass read 2 degrees off. True. Not enough for alarm, not enough for anyone else to even catch, but Dana adjusted it, by feel, her fingertips steady, her eyes unreadable. She'd flown to many missions where being right was not the same as being safe. Outside, the recon team finally approached, 6 men in loose formation, half-buttoned, fatigues, sunglasses pushed up, attitude loud. They carried gear like they were too important to wait. No one looked at Dana. Not really. One of them muttered as he climbed the ramp. "We get the prop bus again. Coffee pilot and all." Dana heard it. She didn't flinch. She just looked up at the mirror above the nav panel. Her own eyes stared back, quiet, calm, sharp. She didn't respond. She didn't have to. Instead, she turned her focus to the outbound weather brief. What they gave her wasn't a top-tier corridor, not even a standard route. It was airspace no one else wanted. Off the ridge. Low priority. Low risk, on paper. But Dana had already seen the lies in the maps, the shortcuts in the overlays. The terrain markers hadn't been updated in over a week. The newer charts were full of assumptions. Smoothed ridges, pixel blur, terrain made easy for the eye but deadly in practice. She didn't trust it. She never had. Under her seat, folded with surgical precision, was an old satellite image, raw, unfiltered, printed before command started scrubbing the lines clean. It showed the real ridge, the real drop zones, the teeth under the terrains. Smile. She reached down, tapped it once, then slid it back. A controller's voice crackled through the Slot Delta. Maintain visual outside grid line. Do not enter priority airways. Dana replied without inflection. Coffee. She shut the hatch. The Wolfhound whirred to life. Battery. Avionics. Pressure. Throttle. Outside, the recon team was still shifting in their seats, tossing bags, stretching like the sky owed them a favor. One of them yawned. No one asked for a brief. No one said her name. As the wheels rolled across the tarmac, unnoticed by tower or team, Dana adjusted pitch, marked wind vector, and lifted clean. Not loud, not dramatic. Just precise. The wheels retracted with a soft shudder. She glanced once at the terrain grid, then back at the SatPass she trusted. And somewhere, in that quiet moment between takeoff and climb, Dana plotted 3 possible landings if the world fell apart, because that's what she always did. She remembered the day she stopped filing corrections, 2 years ago. A report she'd written, barometric data, slope interference, GPS drift under cloud inversion. It was clean, it was exact, and it was ignored. Geographic noise, they'd called it. Expected deviation. She remembered that. She also remembered the pilot they sent into that corridor a week later. He flew it clean. No issues. But when Dana flew the return route, the inversion hit. The sky tilted wrong. The instruments told her she was fine, but the shadows said otherwise, so she flew by feel, by instinct, by pressure drop and slope memory, and she landed at Lake Cold, and Al-Anon, a shelf no one marked. No one logged her deviation. No one asked how she knew the shelf existed. They never did. She kept the old sat image, not for proof, for herself, because sometimes the ground knows what command won't say. They moved her to logistics after that. Runs, backfilled birds, planes, with numbers instead of names. She didn't argue. She just learned the Wolfhound inside and out. She learned its left yaw drifted after 8 hours in crosswind. She tracked barometer shifts by feel. Her uncle taught her how. A smoke jumper, who said, if the pressure drops before the horizon does, you're already late. Dana never forgot that. She didn't ask for higher command. She didn't chase mission credit, but she kept a note in her boot. A rejection form from her last safety submission. The stamp was smudged. The review date blank. It didn't make her bitter anymore, it made her exact. And as the Wolfhound cleared the final grid line and entered airspace no one else wanted, Dana's hands stayed steady. Her tools stayed analog. Pencil, not stylus. Barometer, not AI. Because she didn't fly for glory. She flew for truth. And this time, something felt wrong. She couldn't explain it yet, but she'd felt the wind shift against her skin before she even stepped into the cockpit. The static popped once, faint. Then it dropped the signal. Dana didn't flinch because she'd been waiting for it. The ridgeline ahead softened, blurred by haze that wasn't supposed to be there. Forecast had called it clear. Models said visibility would hold, but the sky was lying, and Dana knew how to listen when it did. From the co-pilot's seat, one of the recon men leaned forward, his tablet glowing faint and frozen. This isn't matching the grid, he muttered. Dana didn't answer. She didn't blink. Her fingers moved slow, practiced across the bearing panel. She adjusted one notch at a time. A course no one else had seen. A path not approved, but remembered. The team in the back began to shift. Uneasy now. One called out, "Are we rerouting?" Another voice, sharper. "That shelf looks tight. That can't be right." Still, Dana didn't speak. She'd already started the descent. Barely perceptible, just enough to shift weight forward and bring the Wolfhound's nose toward a lower pass between two rising slopes. She didn't need to explain. They wouldn't hear it anyway, because the charts were already wrong. 10 minutes ago, the GPS had locked on coordinates that hadn't matched her ink-drawn overlay. She tapped once to refresh the signal. Nothing. The altitude reading flickered. The terrain compression was starting. Ahead, shadows twisted sideways, deeper than the SAP models had shown, and still, no alarms. Tripped. That was the danger. It wasn't chaos. It was confidence in a lie. A tremor ran through the floor, low and long, like the Wolfhound itself was warning her. One of the recon men cursed over the intercom. Pressure just dropped. "That's a pocket spin." Another snapped. "We need to bank lift. Terrain's compressing. We have to shift course." The team lead's voice cracked like a snapped wire. "Bank left now. That's an order." Dana banked right, not aggressively, not in defiance, but because that was where survival was. To the left was wind shear and blind slope. To the right, a darker cut, shallower, protective, known, not by the map, not by the mission plan, but by Dana. She had drawn that notch 3 hours before sunrise. Ink pressed into paper while the others slept. The aircraft rocked once, a gust curling hard off the cliff wall. Dana corrected instinctively. Her left boot braced, right hand feathering the throttle. She tapped the yaw trim 3 clicks right. Her altimeter flickered, then held. Back in the cabin, chaos churned. Heads up, we're dropping blind. Is she even looking at the instruments? Now she's guessing, but Dana was past second guessing. She was reading the terrain the way some people read faces. The way pressure built under cloud walls. The way trees bent not against the wind, but with it. They were close now. Too close for debate. The only option left was instinct, and Dana had made peace with hers a long time ago. Outside, the turbulence snapped like a whip. The Wolfhound jolted, dipped, recovered. Dana adjusted against 2 fingers, 1 breath. She saw it now. the clearing, between the ridges, a shallow arc of gravel and brush, hidden from aerial scans, invisible to satellites that filtered for smooth terrain. But she had seen it, she had circled it, she had planned for it. The moment broke open as they crested the last ridge wind, cutting sideways, hard and sudden. Dana eased the stick forward, nose angled into descent. Not sharp, not dramatic, deliberate, the kind of flight that looks wrong until it's right. Final crosswind, pocket. Her eyes locked on a cluster of crooked trees. Their shadows stretched just like they had in the sat pass she'd printed weeks ago. Bent, not snapped. It meant the wind pushed through, not over. Safe. She dropped the gear. Rear tires touched first. Scrub and stone. A slide. The suspension buckle screamed and held. Nose down. Brake feather. Dana pulled the Wolfhound to a halt 30 meters from a dry creek bed the route hadn't mentioned. Her hands hovered, waiting. Silence, the kind that lands heavy in the chest. Before the brain catches up, no one spoke. Someone in the back exhaled loud and fast, like they'd forgotten to breathe. Another leaned forward and just sat. Not from relief, from shock. Dana didn't say a word. She powered down in silence, switch by switch, system by system. Only then did she reach under her seat and remove her map. Old paper, creased, marked in ink. She studied it, confirming what she already knew. She had landed inside the only safe zone for miles. The sky outside was dull now, washed, gray and silent, but the threat hadn't passed. The terrain had shifted. The charts had lied, and no one, not command, not the recon team, had accounted for that. Only Dana had, because she wasn't flying from orders, she was flying from memory. The hatch opened. Outside, the wind had stilled, but the team had not. The recon leader paced near the slope, static, scratching his radio. No signal. The valley geometry was bending. Bounce back. The air was thick, too dense for clean comes. We need elevation, he muttered, pointing at a bluff. If we get line of sight, we might punch through. Dana didn't look up. Her voice was steady. That bluff will reflect your heat signature in 3 directions. If someone's watching, you'll light up in under 30 seconds. The intel officer froze. They'll see us anyway. Dana turned slightly. Not if we stay small. The team lead bristled. We're not just going to sit here. But Dana was already moving. Not quickly, not urgently. Just precisely. She pulled 2 orange fabric strips from the gear bay, tied one to a crate lid, walked 10 paces, planted it, turned, walked 10 more, placed the second. She didn't explain what she was doing. She didn't need to. The clearing now had a perimeter. No one crosses this, she said. The team lead raised an eyebrow. Says who? Dana pointed to the cooling engine. Says the one who put us here alive. That silenced them. Briefly. The wind picked up again, light, whispering against the ridge, and then they heard footsteps, not birds, not wind. Feet on dry earth. 3 figures emerged from the tree line. No insignia, no clean uniforms, dust on their faces, mismatched boots, rifles slung but visible. The recon team shifted. Hands moved to weapons. Someone clicked their safety off. Dana didn't raise her voice. She raised her hand, palm back. Still, a silent command. The recon team hesitated, then held. Dana stepped forward, just enough to separate herself from the others. Hands open, arms low. No fear in her stance. No pride either, just presence. The 3 figures paused. One shifted his grip. The middle one had a scarf over his face. Their eyes scanned the camp, reading every twitch. Dana moved slowly. She touched her chest, gestured to the sun, then to the aircraft, then the circle she'd drawn. No words, just understanding. The middle one nodded once, then turned. They disappeared into the trees, and the quiet returned, not the kind that comes with safety, but the kind that feels like waiting. The recon team stayed behind the markers. No one asked Dana how she knew what to do. They were still catching their breath, and Dana, she sat at the edge of the line, chart across one knee, and waited. They didn't speak to her, not directly, not yet, but they watched her now, every move, every breath, and she noticed the shadows stretched longer across the clearing, even though the sun hadn't moved much. Time felt different here, compressed, uncertain, like the valley had its own clock, ticking slower and heavier. The recon team gathered near the slope, heads bent over a tablet with no signal. The leader, Staff Sergeant Kane, she'd finally overheard kept tapping the screen like force would fix the loss of satellite lock. Their voices were low, clipped, frustrated, but every few minutes, one of them would glance Dana's way. Not with blame, with caution, like they were trying to reframe what they thought they knew. They hadn't asked her name, not yet, but now. They might. Dana sat cross-legged near the gear bay, map unfolded across her lap. She wasn't staring at it. She was memorizing. Every fold, every symbol, every handwritten marker she'd made in a half-lit barracks while others drank or slept. She'd learned long ago that pilots didn't always need to look bold, just certain. A small movement caught her eye. The youngest of the recon team, Martinez, maybe approached slowly. His uniform hung too loose. His sidearm rode a little too high. He moved like someone still figuring out how to be useful. He crouched down beside her. "You're not like the others," he said. Not accusing, just honest. Dana didn't respond. He nodded toward the ridge. "Back there, when they panicked, you already had the path picked." Dana turned a page on the map. "I'd seen it before." Martinez frowned when Dana looked at him, then, not sharply, just enough to make him understand she wasn't guessing. Before the war, it was a logging route, narrow, useless for armor, perfect for smugglers. It doesn't show up on recon maps because it's not strategic, but it exists. He blinked. "You've been here before?" Dana nodded once, twice. "On mission?" "No," she said quietly. "Before mission. Before all of this." She didn't explain further, and he didn't ask. That's what she respected about him. Behind them, Kane's voice rose. The tablet was useless. The satellite uplink hadn't reconnected, and the fallback beacon wasn't responding. He was calling in orders no one could hear. "This is Recon Delta 7, requesting grid confirmation and evac window. Comms are down. Repeat, comms are." Dana stood. She walked past Martinez without a word and stepped directly to Kane. He was mid-sentence when she spoke. "You won't get a return. You're bouncing off an iron bluff. It's refracting outward and looping your signal." Kane looked at her, exasperated. "What do you want me to do? Just wait around for whoever walked out of those trees to come back?" Dana didn't blink. "They won't come back. Not unless you cross that perimeter." His face tightened. "They're unarmed." "They weren't," she said. "You just didn't see it." Another recon member stepped forward. "Thomason, the one who'd laughed earlier when she banked right. You're saying we hold position with no cover? We're exposed out here." Dana stepped forward, close enough to drop her voice. "That's not exposure. That's respect. We landed inside their blind zone, on neutral ground. You want to survive this? Stay still." Kane opened his mouth, but before he could speak, something shifted. The wind stopped. Completely. No rustle, no dust, not even the dry brush leaning. Martinez turned his head slowly. "Is that normal?" Dana answered without hesitation. "No, it's not." The air felt wrong, heavy again, pressurized. She walked toward the Wolfhound, slowly listening. The metal skin of the aircraft groaned under thermal stress. Not unusual. But then came the second sound, deeper subsurface. She crouched by the nose wheel. There it was again, a hum, not mechanical, electrical. Dana stood. "We need to move now." Kane bristled. "I thought you said to hold position." "Something's pulsing under us," she snapped. "That's not weather." Her voice cut sharp and final. The kind that makes people stop arguing, not because they agree, but because instinct tells them to listen. Dana stepped onto the ramp, tapped a hidden access panel, and pulled a black case from inside. She set it down gently, flipped the latches, and opened the lid. Inside, a manual signal detector. Analog, battery-fed, non-networked, a relic from a time when soldiers didn't trust the cloud. She dialed it in. The needle jumped. "Localized burst," she said. "Short range, directional." Thomason looked confused. "What's that mean?" Dana didn't look up. "It means someone's testing our electronics. From very close." Then the power inside the Wolfhound flickered. Once, twice, and cut. Complete. Blackout. The team froze. Dana moved straight to the port engine bay, bypassed the main start panel, and triggered the auxiliary switch hidden behind the casing. She'd rewired it weeks ago, just in case command interference ever cut main power. A flicker of life returned. Lights dimmed, then stabilized. Only she knew it wouldn't last. She turned back to Kane. "If we don't launch in 4 minutes, we'll lose internal systems completely." He hesitated. "We don't have clearance to." She stepped closer. Quiet, controlled. They don't care if you have clearance. The recon team started to load fast. No jokes this time. No grumbling. Martinez helped stow the last crate. Kane looked at her one more time. This isn't random, is it? Dana shook her head. No, it's layered. It's staged. This was never about us being here. It was about who watched us arrive. As the Wolfhound began to rise, slow and whisper quiet, Dana kept her eyes on the tree line. They were being allowed to leave, not rescued. Allowed. The Wolfhound rose like a memory, quiet, heavy, marked by what it had seen. Inside the cockpit, Dana adjusted altitude manually, bypassing autopilot. It wasn't a malfunction, it was a decision. She didn't trust the instruments anymore, not after what they'd heard in the dirt, not after the pulse. The recon team sat strapped in, their gear silent, their faces paler than before. Kane didn't speak. Thomason didn't look her way. Even Martinez had stopped trying to understand. They were just riding now, the way passengers do when the illusion of control has been stripped. Dana liked them. Better like this, not weak. Honest. The terrain fell away, below peaks and ridges dropping into a basin of cracked earth and sharp rivers. Somewhere, beneath that crust, someone had listened. Someone had tested their perimeter without ever breaching it. Dana didn't know who they were, but she knew how they thought, because she'd been like them once. 2 clicks west, the pressure changed again, not mechanical this time. Atmospheric altimeter drifted. Wind vectors shifted by 3 degrees, a new crosscurrent she hadn't expected. She adjusted without comment. Then she glanced at the far right panel. Her nav overlay was back, but it was wrong. It showed them, still grounded 30 meters from where they'd actually landed. The ghost signal had overridden the GPS log. She tapped the screen, refreshed, still wrong. She tilted her head slightly, watching how the system tried to correct itself, like it was lying to her and doing a bad job. They weren't tracking movement anymore. They were tracking where someone wanted them to be. A synthetic flight path, predetermined, mapped to the wrong grid. Dana shut the panel off, not out of panic, out of certainty. Back in the cabin, Kane finally stepped forward, holding on to the upper handrail to steady himself. What the hell just happened back there? He asked quietly. Dana didn't answer, so he rephrased. Was that an ambush? No, she said. A test. Dana met his eyes in the reflection of the canopy. A rehearsal. That word hit differently, because it meant someone wasn't finished. They were practicing, and they'd let the Wolfhound go on purpose. Kane lowered his voice. What kind of op were they running? Dana's fingers danced across the side console. She unlocked a subroutine code, hers, pre-programmed alternate routing buried under system redundancies. She was no longer flying with the military nav, just she was flying with her own. Not an op, she said. A simulation, not for them, for us. Kane leaned closer. I don't understand. You're not supposed to, Dana replied. Not yet. The Wolfhound turned slightly, banking northeast, away from the designated corridor. Not enough to trip alerts, but enough to shift them off any projected flight path. Dana hadn't announced the reroute. She wouldn't, if someone was watching. It would take them another 6 minutes to realize the Wolfhound had drifted from its beacon trajectory. By then, they'd be under a thermal break zone. Dana eased the throttle back and dropped 200 feet. The Wolfhound's whisper thrust, modulator adjusted pressure to avoid signature spikes. The recon team felt it, not consciously, but like animals in a storm, something was different. Thomason finally stepped forward. Pilot, are we diverting? Dana nodded. Yes, under whose authority? She looked at him now, fully calm/mine. He clenched his jaw. You're not command. Dana tilted her head slightly. No, I'm what flies you home when command doesn't know what it's doing. Martinez tried to diffuse. Maybe we should just ping HQ, log a change. Dana's reply came quick, sharp. No signals. Not until we're below the break. Silence again. But this time, it was fragile. Like the aircraft had become 2 stories flying together. One built on orders, the other built on knowledge. Kane leaned against the frame and looked back into the bay. His men were watching. No one argued. They were done pretending this was a standard mission. Dana dipped again. The outside world blurred into haze. They passed over a canyon, dark red, narrow, whispering with wind that curled upward. She knew this canyon. She had flown it once. Long ago, with someone who wasn't supposed to die. She didn't think of him often. But today, The memory clung to the inside of her ribs. Back then, it had been a medvac fast extraction. He'd told her the coordinates were safe. He'd lied, and he'd stayed behind to make sure she lived. Dana exhaled once, then adjusted. 3 degrees west. The Wolfhound's wings caught a draft just right, no turbulence, just glide. Kane leaned closer, his voice low. You've been to this canyon before. Dana said nothing. Who did you lose? Still silence. Then, someone who used to think maps were enough. Outside, the wind began to die again. Not completely, but enough to remind her. Weren't clear. They were just lucky. The kind of luck that doesn't last twice. Dana touched the edge of the compass switch. She could ping the next station. She could report, but she didn't, because the moment she transmitted, they would know where she was, and they'd want to know how she got out, which meant they'd want to know what she saw, and that was the most dangerous thing of all. They expected a base, or a road, or at least a tower, but what Dana brought them to didn't belong on any of their maps, and yet it was real. The Wolfhound dropped under the final ridge without a word to command. No request for corridor re-entry. No ping. No signature burst. She wasn't hiding. She was avoiding being explained. Because what waited ahead wasn't a checkpoint or supply field. It wasn't marked by code or frequency or flag. It didn't need any of those things. It remembered itself. Kane stepped forward, gripping the handrail tight as the terrain shifted again. Where the hell are we? Dana didn't answer. The ridge peeled back into a wide depression, a natural bowl, ringed by broken earth and crumbling shale. The light here felt off, diffused, thick, as if the sky dimmed slightly just to protect whatever stood below. A single landing pad, circular, cracked, overgrown at the edges with sun-dried weeds. Beyond it, concrete, low, hardened, unmarked, half-buried. A facility, but not a base. The kind of place made to be forgotten. Martinez leaned forward. That's not on the SAT charts. It used to be, Dana said, when she slowed the Wolfhound into a low hover, before the command structure we know existed. The recon team went still. Kane's voice dropped. This an old research station. Dana didn't answer right away. The gear touched down. Not hard, not soft, but final. She powered down the primary systems and sat motionless for a beat. Then she unlatched the harness and stood. Her boots hit the deck with the quiet weight of decision. Finally, she looked at Kane. This is where the signal came from. He frowned. The pulse? No, Dana said. The invitation. That word turned heads. Even Thomason flinched. Martinez whispered, You mean they wanted us here? Dana walked to the rear hatch and hit the release. The Wolfhound exhaled heat, and the door hissed open to the windless air. It smelled of dust, and rust, and something older. She turned back to them. I didn't bring us here by mistake. I've been trying to find this place for over a year. Kane blinked. Under whose order? Dana stepped down onto the pad. Her voice was calm, precise. My own. Silence followed. A silence that wasn't angry, but unsettled. The kind that starts when people realize the rules they've memorized don't apply anymore. Dana walked toward the facility. Each footstep slow, certain. The building ahead was half swallowed by the earth. Its exterior cracked from seismic stress, not battle. It didn't look bombed or sabotaged. It looked abandoned by choice. No markings, no insignias, just a single reinforced door. Its paint flaked away by time. She reached for the handle. It was mechanical, not biometric, not coded, not digital, analog, old, enough to defy surveillance. She pulled. The door groaned open on rusted hinges. Cool air swept out, dry as parchment. Martinez stepped forward, wide-eyed. This place is alive. There's power down there. Dana nodded once. Geothermal loop. No comes, no signal bounce. That's why they didn't find it. Kane hesitated. Who's they? Dana turned, her eyes dark and calm. The ones who told us the war was over. That hit like a punch. Because the war had ended 2 years ago, on paper. But paper didn't fly recon routes into ghost valleys. Paper didn't override nav systems with false echo trails. Paper didn't listen to aircraft land, then pulse their systems from underground. Dana turned toward the darkness inside. Stay here if you want. But I'm going in. She crossed the threshold. Without looking back, because what lived down there wasn't a threat, it was a question. And Dana had spent too long waiting for someone else to ask it. The air changed after the second step, not colder, not thicker, just aware. The passage sloped gently downward. Concrete walls bled condensation from decades of trapped breath. Wires hung from open conduits like veins from a dissected limb. Dana walked slowly, no weapon drawn, no light activated. She didn't need it. This place wasn't unfamiliar. It was unfinished. The door behind her creaked once, then settled. She was alone now, not by accident, by design. The corridor opened into a large atrium oval. Multi-tiered dust floated in the shafts of filtered light from slats above. Desks stood like bones, not shattered, not looted, just paused. Dana stepped to one of them and ran her finger along the surface. No prints. No ash. No disturbance. Whoever had left this place had done so on purpose, not in a rush, but in ritual, and that was what scared her. She moved deeper, to the central lift column, still intact, manual crank, emergency override panel intact. She opened it. Inside, a key. The kind not assigned to any base. Dana took it, slid it into the lock. Darned. A deep hum rolled up from the ground like something remembering how to breathe. The floor beneath her shifted steady. The lift began to descend. 10 meters, then 20, then silence. The platform stopped below her now, a second level, not on any blueprint, not on any clearance path. Dana stepped off. This part of the facility was pristine. No dust, no decay. The walls here didn't feel like walls. They felt like memory, embedded, intentional. She passed what looked like storage lockers, but they weren't labeled. No unit numbers, no ranks, just symbols, inverted triangles, lines intersected by waves, glyphs she'd seen once before, back when the war wasn't a war, but a containment exercise. She stopped at the third door on the left. This one had a small panel beside it, cracked but still operational. She pressed her palm against the surface. Nothing, just tried again. Still nothing. Then she leaned forward and whispered, Echo 6. The panel lit up. Green. Unlocked. The door hissed open. Dana stepped inside. The room was small. A single table, a chair, and a screen still active, running a looped playback of static and fragments. She moved closer. The footage clicked into clarity for 1 second, then dissolved. Then another second. And another. Moments, all stitched from fragmented angles. Overlays showed timestamps from 4 years ago. Then 10. Then 0. Not 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds, just 0. The footage was of her younger, hair shorter, uniform different, no rank patch. No insignia, just her, standing in this exact room. Looking into the same screen, recording something that didn't play on loop. Something held in reserve. Dana sat. She exhaled. Then she whispered the phrase again, Echo 6. This time, the screen didn't glitch. It cleared. And played the file. Her own voice. From years ago. Calm. Steady, but with an edge of something even she now barely recognized. If you're hearing this, the signal worked. And it found you. Which means you came back. Which means you remember. The Dana watching now didn't flinch. The voice continued. You were told this station was decommissioned. You were told the experiment ended. You were told the valley was a failed site. A pause. You were lied to. The recon team, 2 levels above, had no idea what was being said below them. No idea that the woman they'd trusted with their lives had once stood in a black site and recorded a message. For herself, Dana's younger voice spoke again. This isn't about the war. Not really. It's about who was allowed to disappear when it ended. And what they took with them. The screen cut. Then shifted. New image. Coordinates. Lot long, buried under a non-existent range in the central plateau. Dana stared. The voice was gone, but the room still listened. She stood, and for the first time in years, she remembered why she became a pilot. Not to fly. To return. The air shifted first, like the sky exhaled, and Kane felt it in his teeth before he saw it in the clouds. He stood at the base of the Wolfhound's ramp, watching the ridgelines. Still nothing, no birds, no wind, no dust moving across the shale. But something had changed. Thomason paced near the perimeter, rifle low but ready. She's been down there too long. Kane nodded slowly. No comes, no updates. Martinez stood by the nose of the craft, staring at the crumbling facility. Place gives me vertigo just looking at it. like it's not done being here. A low rumble in the distance. Faint. Mechanical. Kane's head snapped up. That wasn't thunder. The recon team froze. Thomason raised his binocs and scanned the southern arc of the bowl, then lowered them. His voice, flat. We've got incoming. Kane stepped forward. How many? 3, Thomason said. Fast movers. No squad markings. No signs. Martinez cursed under his breath. They found us. No, Kane said. They were always watching. Just waited for her to open the door. He tapped his pilot. This is Kane. We've got 3 inbound, unknown origin, 85 minutes. Repeat 5 minutes. Nothing. Just static. Then a response. But not Dana. A voice they didn't know. Your transmission has been received. Secure your weapons and prepare for acquisition. This site is now classified under Directive Pale Veil. Silence. Thomason stared at Kane. Pale Veil. That's not on any op list. Kane's jaw clenched. Because it doesn't exist. Martinez checked his rifle. Nervous. You want us to stand down? Kane shook his head. Slowly. No. I want us to buy time. He turned to the hatch and ran toward the stairwell Dana had descended. Each footstep echoed in his ears. Concrete, dust, pressure. Building behind him like a wave, he found the central shaft and jumped the last 3 steps. Dana. His voice punched into the corridor like a warning shot. Dana, we've got contact in own airframe. Non-standard frequency. You need to move. No response. He turned the corner and saw her, standing at the base of the lift shaft. Looking up. Calm. Prepared. But not surprised. He slowed. What the hell is going on? Kane said. Who are they? Dana met his eyes. The ones who kept the truth when we were told to forget it. He stepped closer. You brought us here knowing this would happen. Dana nodded. I had to trigger the protocol. It was the only way to reopen the record. Kane's voice sharpened. You used us. No, Dana said. I trusted you. There's a difference. Outside, the sound was closer now. Engines, flaring low. Steady. Professional. Kane reached for his weapon. Dana held up a hand. They won't shoot unless you break the choreography. What choreography? This one, Dana said, stepping toward him, voice lower. You'll go back to the Wolfhound. You'll say she went in alone, that she didn't report, that you waited. Then they arrived. That's all. Kane stared. And you, Dana looked back into the dark. There's something else here. Something that didn't make the report 10 years ago. Kane shook his head. You can't stay. This is going hot. Dana's eyes didn't blink. That's exactly why I have to. The lights above flickered once, then held. Martinez's voice crackled over Kane's earpiece. Sir, they're landing. Blackout canopy, low heat engines, no markings. They're coming fast. Kane turned. One last look. You go any deeper, I can't protect you. Dana smiled. Just barely. You were never supposed to. And then she was gone. Back into the shadow. Back into the memory. Kane turned and ran back. Toward the surface. Back toward a sky that didn't belong to them anymore. The 3rd level didn't appear on the schematic. Dana found upstairs. Because it wasn't built, it was uncovered. The floor gave way to an old shaft lined with stone. Pre-facility, pre-war, maybe even. Pre-nation. The walls were etched with symbols, not written. Branded. She descended, not by lift, but by ladder iron bars cold with silence. And then, she reached it. A chamber. Circular. Perfect. In the center. A chair, old, heavy, wires hanging like roots from the ceiling. Above it, a recorder sat beside it, analog, tape-driven, but humming with preserved charge. Dana approached slowly. She pressed play, and the room filled with a voice she hadn't heard since she was 17. This is Command Echo. Final session log, date unknown. Her father's voice. We made a mistake. Above Rigelanethri, black transports landed in a triangle magnificent, quiet, cold. Their sides bore no flags, only the shadow of a seal. An eye closed. 24 operatives stepped out. Full gear, matte visors, no names. Thomason whispered, What the hell are these guys? Kane said nothing. He stepped forward, hands raised. I'm Lieutenant Kane. This is a recon team on classified grid patrol. No engagement initiated. The lead operative tilted his helmet, almost amused. You were never here. Kane's jaw clenched. Neither were you. Silence. Then the operative stepped past him, followed by 3 more, heading for the hatch. Dana disappeared into Both. Martinez moved. but Kane stopped him. No, sir. We're not here to win a gunfight. Thomason cursed under his breath. One of the operatives paused at the threshold, then looked back, spoke for the first time. You leave now, you live. You stay, your history gets erased. Kane looked down the shaft. Dana was already gone, and so was their innocence. He turned to the team. We leave. Below final. Playback. The tape crackled again. They wanted to erase us, the whole program. But you can't bury what's wired into memory. So we left a signal, a trace. And if you're hearing this, you're the trace. Dana sat in the chair, just for a moment, just to feel it. And in that moment, the recorder lit up again, a red light, a blink. Not dead, just waiting. Her father's voice returned. Dana, if you made it back here, remember, it wasn't a war. It was a rehearsal. The light stayed on. Dana closed her eyes. The operatives would come soon. Maybe to kill her. Maybe to recruit her. Maybe to bury her for good. But it didn't matter. She'd heard the truth, and now it lived again. In her the valley was quiet. But silence isn't peace. Sometimes it's a heartbeat, waiting to be counted again. And Dana had just started counting.